Hello. How are we all doing? Oh, Renee, you went off too early. I'm not even sure I'm live, you know. You know why? Where I usually... Last week... Right, no. What normally happens is it says you're live. Last week, it said you're not live.
You are live.
Oh, jolly good. This week, nothing. It's just white. It's a white box. So anything could be happening. I have no idea. Oh, it's turned into a pantomime. Excellent. Right, let me go back to the top. Hello, Carol. We have two Carols in together. Excellent. Hello, Kim. And Annie. Hello. Oh, Renee's watching the ceremony. Yes, I've got that on in the background. Hello, G. Trimpin. Good to have you with us. Hello, Chris. Hello, Jonathan. And thank you very much, Jonathan. Much appreciated. Right. Hello, Paul. Paul is with us. Early morning for Paul. It's late night here. And, as you pointed out, it was raining, wasn't it? Which upset Lola greatly. But I said she had no right to be upset because she's downstairs. And you've probably got the fire on for her, haven't you? No. Literally electric blanket. I mean, she'd be up here telling you to do just that if she's cold. Oh, you know Lola. Right. Then we've got the pantomime session. Excellent. Hello, Neil. Right, I think I've got everybody. Yes, I am now live.
Sir Cake. Sir Cake.
Not in my chat. Okay, what's happening? Oh, yep. It's a good job I've got two chats, isn't it? Because the one that
One's
I'm
behind, is it?
Yes, one's missing stuff. So hello, Sir Cake. This is ludicrous. I've literally just got this white panel, but never mind. We'll press on regardless, won't we? Right, let me get everything lined up and hopefully it'll all work. You know, like I always say. Right, let's get that down there. And let's see if it moves. No, it didn't. I told you. It's not good when it goes well in rehearsals. Right, let's try that again. Let's try that. Excellent. So, we have the week at MacBites headquarters. We have an all Affinity special. Went down so well last week. We have the new line width tool in the Affinity Designer 2.5 beta. We have a how-to in terms of designing the vote. You'll find out what that means shortly. But it is in Affinity Designer. In fact, I think I'll use the beta, just for giggles. And then we have a big addition to the Affinity Publisher 2.5 beta, which is variable fonts. And then we've got some freebies. Now, I guess I need to say at this point, maybe, looking at the running order, I think tonight might be a shorter show. Just saying. I think it probably will. Right, we are broadcasting in 1080p. Make sure you are receiving in 1080p. Do you know, it did weirdness to me this week. It was actually at 720, which shouldn't have been bad, but it was like a pea soup fog. So make sure you are watching in 1080p. There is a cog in the lower right-hand corner. It's very closely situated to the like button. So, two birds, one stone, as they say. And, of course, I have to remind you about comments. That YouTube love comments, just not quite as much as we do. But you can't leave a comment while we're actually live, not on this video. But you could go back and put a comment on last week's video. Michael put the link in. I've put it in the week at MacBites headquarters, Mike. Oh, I'm all organised. It's frightening. Right, so that would be a very good time. And then I can approve them all later. Right, also wanted to remind you that we have our resources page, macbites.co.uk/resources, where you will find everything. So, the week at MacBites headquarters. Let's head back to last Saturday. And if you were with us last week, you might recall we already had plans for Saturday. Oh, we did. The week before, Mike's new washing machine had arrived. If you remember, he was absolutely gleeful. Gleeful he was. His excitement was palpable until it sprung a leak. His bubble was burst and so was the outlet pipe. So he sorted out a new delivery and it was due last Saturday. Oh, it arrived. So Mike was doing it all again, weren't you? Why do it once when you can do it twice? And what were those things called? The something bolts? Transit bolts?
Transit bolts.
Oh, yeah. I would have no idea there was a transit bolt on it. I would be wondering why it wasn't going round, but there you go. Anyway.
Oh, it goes round with the transit bolts in, but it could just make a vibration.
Yes, it probably would, wouldn't it? Not that we'd hear it because it's outside. But so far, so good with that. He had to let it then settle. You know, like a fridge. You do that with fridges, don't you? Yes. In the meanwhile, I wasn't having the best of days myself. I didn't fare as well as Mike with his new toy. Now, I was greeted by a USB accessories disabled message. This was Saturday. I put this on the slide on Saturday. I do a little bit each day. But I can now report it did that 5 days out of 6 this week. So bad words were said. I've only got 2 devices plugged in and neither uses any power. But you'll doubtless recall the fiasco of the SanDisk Extreme drives that the Mac Studio has the temerity to just spit out. So I just ignored it and carried on regardless, you know, as you do. And then there was the match. Ooh, excitement. Yes, it was Burnley this time, wasn't it? And it was one of those rare ones not on the TV. This was the second match running. Do they want Mike to have withdrawal symptoms? So, wireless it was, wasn't it? On wireless, yes. I think you did it this time, because I did it the time before. You'd headed off to bed, if you remember. And I wandered in and put it on my phone. But no, Mike took care of it this time, and I think it was BBC Sports. Anyway, all was going reasonably well. Until the last 3 minutes, when a penalty was given away. What is it with United in the last sort of dying breath of a match?
Don't ask.
Yes. I did actually manage to get this on my iPad. And you know how we don't get coverage, but we do get coverage once it's gone? Yeah. Once the final whistle's blown, then they turn the camera on so you can see it. And there was the idiot who gave the penalty away, arguing about it. I was wondering he didn't get booked as well. Yeah, it's a case of like, you know, if you've ever needed a shepherd's hook to just drag him off, that was it. That was it. Now, you also may remember Tesco. We had to put them off from Friday, didn't we? Why did we put them off from Friday? Oh, you had a webinar, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had to put them off. There was one substitution, so there I was, braced for what the substitution was. They've substituted broccoli with... And I thought, what could you substitute broccoli with? Mike said, you'll never guess. So I said, go on then. He said, broccoli. Okay, so there's different kinds of broccoli, is there?
There is the shrink-wrapped broccoli and there's loose broccoli.
Do you remember the time they sent pygmy broccoli?
There's different sizes. So instead of sending me one big one, they send me 2 little ones, or vice versa.
Crying out loud. Do you remember when broccoli was broccoli and you used to buy it in a paper bag? Oh, those were the days. Anyway, we went on to Sunday. And Sunday was Carol's anniversary, as I put in Slack. So happy anniversary to Carol. I spent more time than was wise looking out of the window. You all know by now I love people parking on the pavement. Not. No point reporting them to the police, though, since they do the same. Yes, that's a police car right outside the house. I watched for long enough to see the officer take somebody into custody. Never a dull moment here on a Sunday, is there? And can I just point out how amazing the front garden looks now?
It does.
It does. It looks absolutely amazing. Next door's bush is a bit overgrown, but apart from that. And Sunday. I think we need a drum roll for this, Mike. There we go.
Tescos is here.
Excellent. You carry on. I will tell them that on the test run, there were no leaks. Happy, happy boy. Oh, he was a happy boy. So I don't think he's done a full wash yet, but didn't leak on the test run, which it did the week before. In fact, what he didn't tell me the week before was he had a video of it leaking in case they argued. Oh, I've taught him well, Padawan. But yes, he had video of it. So he said, did I show you the video? I said, no. So there I am on a Sunday watching a video of a leaking washing machine pipe. Who said I don't live? But so far, so good with that one. Which took me on to Monday. I decided I'd better plan my week. I don't know why I bother. I really don't, honestly. I needed enough wiggle room. And what happened this week was I came to my calendar and Google had unilaterally decided to change all the colours, which totally threw me. You know, my work calendar is a dark green and the shared calendar's blue, and all of a sudden, MacBites is orange. I went in, MacBites was pink. I'm like, what's going on? It looked like somebody else's calendar. So then, of course, I had to go through the process of like, what colour was that one? What colour was that one? And some of them, normally when you change the colour to light, it changes the text to dark. This isn't rocket science. No, we had dark text on a dark background, couldn't even see what it said. Anyway, got there in the end, which was when I decided I needed to take a Facebook break. Oh, much excitement. There was actually, it was an unknown reason that I needed to take a Facebook break. But for once, it was worth it. Chicken rides again. Now, you're wondering, aren't you? I just saw this and it tickled me because of chicken. My car's got a crank handle. So, yeah, that'd work really well. Absolutely love it. And that is chicken. Yeah, I don't think our chicken has got black feet. But I do remember literally just before lockdown, we got Lola the chicken and she absolutely loved it. And of course, chicken has a starring role on MacBites. So when we went back to the store, we bought out all the chickens they had. So I probably could do that. It was just as well we bought all the chickens because we actually bought them from Wilko's. And if you're in the UK, you'll know they went bust about 6 months ago. So yes, I am the custodian of all the chickens. So that'll be happening at MacBites headquarters. Tuesday. Oh, I was up alarmingly early. Well, actually, no, I'm lying. I wasn't. I was awake alarmingly late on Monday. That's what I was doing. And that was when this popped up. The weekly screen time report. I don't think I use this the way Timmy intended. I've gamified it all right, but for me, the more hours of use, the better. And over 12 hours a day, proud of that. Oh, yes, indeed. I'm sure that's not what Timmy intended. Now, the next one, this is not my photo, because I was not up at 23 minutes to 7. But that is the BBC Breakfast News, and that is the local canal. You'll notice they didn't head further south, where the van is still half submerged next to the repair centre. But they did do more than one live piece from the banks of our canal. I do believe they were talking to the people at Trafford Rowing Club. I don't know how, I guess they navigate around said car, don't they? It's quite wide there. It does narrow down a bit. But yes, apparently we were on the local news. As I say, I missed it live, but never mind. I was more interested in the fact that Arc had arrived on Windows. So let me know in the chat, what browser do you use? Obviously for me, I did have a go with Arc. And if Vivaldi wasn't there, I'd probably be using it. But Vivaldi is where it's at for me. That's where my heart is. But Arc is now available on Windows. So if you have been putting it off because you were a Windows user, put it off no longer. Arc is now available. The chickens are probably cheaper than a garage trip. I think you're quite right there, Annie. Absolutely. Right, which took us to Wednesday. Oh, Wednesday was first job on Wednesday. Happy birthday to Deb. Deb's birthday on Wednesday. I actually looked at all the birthdays in May. And Deb obviously is 1st of May. Everybody else's is on the 19th, including mine. So only 18 days to go at that point. Now, these were not excitings, but they're not exciting unboxings. But we haven't had one in a couple of weeks, so I thought I'd tantalise Jammy, who's going to be late, but he'll catch up. And you may recall me expressing some frustration. Mild frustration. No, it was terrible. It was terrible. With the modern world. I called it the modern world weirdness last week, and I specifically mentioned 2 words that I find are greatly overused and don't actually mean what you think they would mean. And I mentioned dope and sick. And the BBC, oh, they've surpassed themselves. It's new to the iPlayer. Now, it's not a new series, but it's new to the iPlayer. Binned after 8 episodes, so I won't be bothering with the binge watch. But yes, apparently, I wonder if that's where it came from. I have no idea. Let me know. Neil says, what's so good about Arc? It didn't suit me, because I'm a Vivaldi girl. But the idea of it is that it's got your back in terms of automations. So it will automatically close Windows after a certain amount of time, and you can have different modes that you work in. So you could have a setup for work and a setup for home and stuff like that. I've done that with workspaces in Vivaldi. So for me, Vivaldi's where it's at, but I know a lot of people use Arc. Which took us to Thursday. Big day. I would think globally, I think, well, in the UK anyway, but locally specifically. Oh, it was election day. Local elections. Joy not. Now, in Greater Manchester, we also got to vote on the local mayor. I'm guessing we might as well not have bothered since the results are foregone conclusion and they're not even starting the count until tomorrow. But I thought it was a good excuse for Lola's dogs at polling station images. Dogs at polling stations is a thing on Twitter. This was last year. It took a couple of treats to get her there, but she remained convinced she could do a better job than any of them, and to be honest, she was probably right. If we go back even further, 2019, she expressed her true feelings. Who calls a general election in December, Mike?
I don't know. Who does?
In the UK? Oh, that would have been Boris. I wonder if he'd have bothered if he knew what was to come in 2020 and beyond. As you can see, Lola was less than impressed. But she soon got into a stride and decided to make her own pitch for power. And you know, I've just remembered, that was the last time I ventured out to vote. The general election 2019. That was Lola this year. It was her polling station picky of the year. It took you a while to get her there, didn't it? She wasn't really bothered.
No.
But we got there. Now, obviously, we're not leaving the house other than to walk Lola. So we sagely decided on a postal vote, or as it's known here at MacBites headquarters, Operation Origami. If you think I'm exaggerating the complexity, trust me, I'm not. Shall I remind you of the full horror of it all? There was the declaration, there was the local election voting form, there was the mayoral election voting form, and that was all before the excitement of Envelope Gate. The declaration goes in Envelope B, address front and centre. The voting forms go in Envelope A, address front and centre. But since there were two voting forms, it didn't say which one. Then Envelope A needs to go inside Envelope B, which was a tighter fit than a painted-on pair of drainpipe pants, wasn't it? The instructions themselves for this glorious escapade are 2 pages long, all of which was fine, unless you're somewhat younger than we are. Who can spot the deliberate mistake here? Let me just remind you if you need a clue. It's 2024. What's the voting age in this country, Mike?
18.
18. Therefore, you could be voting and born in 2006. Yeah. I just hope that if you were born between 2000 and 2006 and are now eligible to vote, that you had sufficient whiteout to fix the error. That's been on the ballot papers for the last 7 years and is still not fixed. I think that's shocking. I mean, if you go in and you alter a voting thing, you'd be carpeted for it. Is it just Trafford or is it everywhere that's inept? Rhetorical question. Oh, and the stripes down the side, the yellow, I think was the yellow for the local election and the green for the mayoral. I can't remember, but they were colour-coded as well on top of everything else. Oh, that took longer than it needed to. And just for giggles, I decided the next thing I'd do was install... well, actually, no, I didn't install Catalina. No. I had Catalina installed. I decided it was time to update. Now, this is not my main Mac. This is my 2017 iMac, and I hadn't updated it from Catalina. So the time was now. It can only go as far as Ventura. I swear you used to get more life out of an iMac than that. I'm pretty sure I had a 2011 that I was installing the latest on 10 years later, but no more. Ventura was as far as it could go, but that was absolutely fine because Ventura was as far as I wanted it to go. So I set about downloading it, and before long I was ready to upgrade. Yes, I did back it up first. So I set it going. I did the thing and I clicked the continue button. Have you ever regretted doing something seemingly simple? Not even joking. I kept looking at it, and it watched part. Yeah. 5 hours later, that finally sprang up. It was more relief by then than anything else. I thought at that stage, oh, wow, it's alive. It's alive. So I hit the continue button. Oh, did I mention things you'd done that you wished you hadn't? Because things started happening. Oh, it was horrible. All of that all over the screen, and I had to carefully read each one and give it permission and all the rest of it. Oh. So, another 5 hours later, I was ready to go. The only problem was by then, I'd long forgotten what it was that I was trying to do. Why did I update that machine, Mike?
I don't know.
Because I needed to update Raycast. And Raycast said, no, not on something as old as this. So it was like, so I can either do without Raycast, that's not an option, or I can update the machine. So I decided to update the machine. I am happy to report now that 24 hours later, it's finally settled down and it's calmed itself somewhat. So, it could have been faster though. By the time all that was done, it was time for the Apple's earnings call. Do you remember when everyone was the best quarter ever? Do you remember that? That's all we used to say. Best quarter ever. More money than God. Well, I read the headline to this one in the Financial Times. Apple's revenue falls less than feared, despite a rocky start to the year. The tech giant shares rise as executives project optimism about the coming months and announce a £110 billion stock buyback. So I thought, they project optimism. Lock your wallets up. Because, for them to project optimism, that means they're going to fleece us more, doesn't it? Because they haven't got enough money. Yeah. So while that was happening, Mike was still working. Yes, he was. 11 o'clock at night, Mike was teaching Excel. Greater love hath no man, do you?
Something like that.
Yes. Which took us to Friday. Oh, the excitement. It took them almost all day to count a few thousand votes. But by the close of business, we had a result locally. It was close. It went as I expected, to be honest. As I predicted, Labour did win. But boy, was it close. 6 votes in it. I trust they did count ours. Just saying. You think to yourself it wouldn't vote, not voting would make no difference, but when it's as close as that, it actually does, doesn't it? So you can see there weren't actually many votes, and I'm hoping that ours weren't the spoilt ballots. But I've got a sneaking suspicion the spoilt ballots would be the ones that were put in the wrong envelopes, that were colour-coded incorrectly and had Tipp-Ex all over them.
Can we go back to these envelopes business?
Why? What's the matter with them?
The fact-checking charity Full Fact published a fact check on this, having contacted a few councils to request an explanation. All the councils confirmed if the voter was born in the 21st century, their postal ballot pack will be prepended with 20 rather than 19. Bromley Council added, whilst the chance of a voter receiving a pack with a year number incorrectly filled in was very small, the voter should just cross the 19 out and write their actual year of birth above.
Oh, for crying out loud. They'd say that was a spoiled paper. I mean, I didn't know. I thought this was an old wives' tale. But you learn to vote, don't you? It's like your first time voting, right? And it actually says put a cross in the box. I didn't know they considered it a spoiled paper if you put a tick in the box.
Yeah, it's got to be a cross.
It's actually got to be a cross.
Yeah.
Oh, in America, they've computerised all this, haven't they, with the hanging chads? Do you remember that? Yeah, we're not fit over here to have computers. We actually do have. I take a picture, only one, I'm not going out the house, and 2, you're not allowed. You're not allowed to take photos in a polling station. But they actually have stubby pencils, and I mean these pencils are about 3 inches long, and they are tied to the desks with string. It looks like an old farmer, doesn't it, holding the pants up with string. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. But that's how it went. And we have to say congratulations to Patience, who is right as we speak in the middle of her commencement ceremony. So huge congratulations, and hopefully you'll catch up on the show later. Mike had to vacate shortly, didn't you? A little while ago. But Tesco's had surpassed themselves, hadn't they? They'd sent everything. So they didn't substitute the broccoli for broccoli then?
No.
No, but An update on the Apple cleaner. Still out of stock. About 3 months now.
Something like that.
But Mike is still trying every week. There you go. So have we got any questions about anything in there?
Neil said it's mandatory to vote in Australia. He was very, whatever the word is, about 47% turnout.
Shocked. I would say. Shocked.
He always loved polling day in the UK as it meant a day off school. I'm sorry to tell you, Neil, but the schools no longer are the polling stations.
No, they don't do that now, do they? I think that's probably to do with safeguarding.
Yeah,
because
true.
you were. I mean, we used to vote at the school up the road on Meadway.
Yeah,
and you went into the school hall, and you're walking through classrooms and stuff. So no, they don't use schools anymore. The one round the corner was a church, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So the one Lola went to was a church, but the one round the corner in the park is it's like a municipal building, isn't it?
Yeah, a pavilion.
It's a pavilion because it's got a golf course there. You can, like a pitch and putt. So all the golf clubs are in there. So that's where it is locally. Sometimes they actually bring like a porta cabin, don't they?
Mm.
But other than that, they tend. I mean, I have seen it in people's living rooms. It's only in the UK. But 47% turnout, Neil, wasn't at all bad. Because when I was looking at the other ones, Hale and Bowden were pretty good. They were up there with us. But some of the turnouts were like 32%. So 47's actually pretty good.
I wonder if my mother bothered voting.
She probably got a postal vote. Imagine she could still be sitting there reading the instructions, to be honest.
I've got to sort her iPhone and iPad out tomorrow.
Well, what's wrong with them?
In case of the disappearing emails.
Oh, the 4,000 emails that are going missing.
Yeah.
Right, let's head off then and look at the first new toy of the night, which is the Line With tool in Affinity Publisher 2.5 beta. No, it's not. I'm lying. It's Affinity Designer. Oh, I haven't been well this week, have I? That's the problem. Designer. It says Designer. Just ignore it. Right. If you are not on the beta program, you can get on the beta program. And as I've always said, you can have the beta programs installed as well as the release versions. I got a question this week was, can I have the beta versions and the release version if the release version is from the App Store, not direct? Yes, you can. It doesn't matter whether it is a direct release version or the one from the store, you can have them anyway. All you need to do is go to affinity.serif.com/affinity-beta-program and sign up. And you will then, it will be added to your account, you log in, download it, and you are good to go. Right, let's go and have a look at it then. Okay, so I'm going to show this in Designer Beta. So, Affinity Designer 2 Beta, I updated this today. So it is definitely the latest and greatest. Right, let's bring that on. This doesn't matter for what I'm actually going to show you. So shall we have that one? Let's have that one. Right. I don't know if you know this, so we'll start off with the basics. I'm just going to use the pen tool and create 2 lines. Like so. Right. You can obviously format these lines. So initially it's black and a 1 point width, but you can make it much wider than that. You can also change things like the end caps. You can change the join, which wouldn't show on this one particularly because there isn't a join. Or you can change the alignment. And again, this is a line, so it pretty much isn't going to make that much difference. But I think we'll have round caps on it. Right. The other thing that you could do is you can alter the pressure. So this new feature is a completely new tool, but it doesn't do anything that you can't already do if you know how. So really it's a case of making something far more accessible. So I'm going to move this one out of the way and concentrate on this top one. So you've possibly seen this before. I've definitely demonstrated it before, but this is the pressure option. And at this point, if I take that right down, you can see it disappears. And while I'm clicking one of them, it's actually moving both of them. But what I can do, so I've taken it down to half, I can add extra points. But I add the extra points in this dialog. So if I were to put one in the middle and pull it up, you can see that it's wider in the middle and it tapers towards the end. if I grab the ends, you can see it tapers it right down. And there's nothing to stop me adding more points. So I can make weird and wonderful shapes like these. Let's move that one in a bit, make it sharper. You can't take that point past, so they're in order. You can't take it past this one. If you wanted it moving, you'd have to move that one. And then make weird and wonderful shapes like that. The problem is, in order to do that, you're looking at this dialogue on the right-hand side of the screen, in my case, and you're moving these points to alter what's happening with the line, rather than concentrating on the line. And that is what the new tool allows you to do. So if we take this line and we don't bother with the pressure option, we go over to the tools, underneath the pencil. So some of these tools have disclosure triangles. The pencil has one, the gradient has one, that's still on the QR code, but that's shapes. So these are disclosure triangles that show you extra tools. Not only do you have the disclosure triangle, but in certain circumstances, if you hold the option key as well, when you click the disclosure triangle, it shows you secret tools like the cat tool. So, up to the pencil tool and click that, and we have this new tool, the stroke width tool. So, enabling that, and it looks like it's changed to this tool, which is the node tool. And it's not the node tool. It is the line width tool. But what I'm going to do with this is select the line. And what I can do here is click and it adds a point, and then I can click and widen it or narrow it or move it left to right. And I can add more points to it. So I can keep doing that. So I can have a skinny thing there and click here and make that much bigger. Click there and make that much smaller. So it's actually doing the same thing, but it's doing it in a different way. It's a more interactive way that you're concentrating on the line itself rather than up here in the pressure window. But if you look in the pressure window, it's just like a different interface to what is going on in the pressure window. So it's just a different way of doing it. It's much more intuitive. If this line were part of an artwork, you would probably want to focus on that artwork as you're making these changes. So it's much easier to move it from left to right and move it up and down to make it wider or make it narrower. So do we... Oh, Annie likes that. It's funky. Excellent. Right. Do we have any questions on that?
No.
Before we move on. Right.
No.
So you've seen that I did this first one with the pressure window, and I did the second one with the line tool. But in this pressure window, despite the fact it's now in the tool, you can in here save presets. So you can come down here and you can save the profile, and that will add the profile to the bottom of it. Now this one was, I never used the line tool on it, I used the pressure. But if I go down here, although it's not quite as intense, you can see it's applied a wide bit here and a wide bit there, and it does line up with these. And then I can decide if I want it wider than that. And I can do that up here as well. So as I'm doing this, you see it's making it wider as well. So that is what they've added to it. You do have a couple of options here. So you can lock the line weight, you can lock the point ordering, and then you've got some snap options here, whether you want to snap to the curve nodes, snap to the widths on the same curve, or snap to the geometry. So just a handful of options there. And that is completely new. I think it's more logical. I think it's more accessible for people. But at the moment, they don't have the ability, without going into the pressure window, to save those presets. It would be nice if that was at the top. But this is literally just a beta at the moment. So any feedback you've got, I found a few quirks with some of the beta features. Send them the feedback and then hopefully that'll be fixed before release. But that is a completely new tool. So once again, you will find it underneath the pencil. It does exactly what the pressure option does, but it does it in a much neater and nicer way. Okay, we got anything there then?
No,
Oh
we've
no!
got lots of 6 and dopes.
Oh no! Don't do that to me. Okay, right, I will show you a practical use for that. Oh, I will. So let me close that. In fact, we can use this. I'll just delete it. That's what we'll do. Right, you may recall. Let's whip back into here. Right, that's the beta program again. So that's the URL if you want to join it. Now, the demonstration of something that I actually needed to do this week, and I thought, oh, I'll try that too, is designing the vote. So if you remember back to the week at MacBites headquarters, there was that slide in it, and that was completely done in Affinity Designer. So we need to design that. So I'll use the beta so I can actually show you the feature in use, in anger, as they say. So I'm going to need a background on here to start with, and I like to just draw that in. Now you'll see what's happened there. That looks like it's broken, but what it's done is the last stroke that I used, it's applied it. So it's remembered it in here and it's applied it to this, and obviously I don't want it in there at all. So let's definitely not have that. Let's take that away. And I don't really want it that colour either. I do have a colour that I need it, which I helpfully have, and I can copy and paste it. So let's paste that in. Right, then I need what is either the ballot box or the table, depending on how you look at it. And that is also just another rectangle. So what I could do is just Command and J. Oh dear, what happened there? Did I mention it's a beta? Right, back you come. Right, let's Command and J on that. Oh, it did it. Right, and move that down. And it was just under half, so about there will do. That was a different colour, which I've got. So let me grab that colour and apply that. But that had a hole in it for the vote, so we need to do that. And notice all I'm doing here is just duplicating the first rectangle. So I'm duplicating that one, which has put it down here. I now need yet another colour. So I have a colour for that, which I'm copying and pasting into here. Doing that so I can actually see it. Right, then it needs to be the size it needs to be. So I'm just eyeballing this. I don't think it was quite that big, so we'll have it not quite that tall. Shall we have it 100 tall? We will. Right, and it could be 1,500. That'll do. So I'm putting that in the middle. Now, to make that, give that a 3D look without going into anything 3D, that's what we need to do. So, easiest way to do that. Now, what I think I would do with this lot as well, that I would group and I would lock it because I'm going to be moving this around or other shapes. But what I'll do with this is I will duplicate that again. And this time I'll have it that height, but I'm going to have it narrower. So I think we'll have it 140. 140. No, not that big. Good grief. 140. Right. Now, for that to work, I need it to make it look like it's indented. So the first thing I need to do is to make it much darker so it looks like it's a shadow. So I'll put the colour on first, but that doesn't look anything like we need it to look. It wouldn't be bad if the slot was wrong, but what that needs the shape changing. So at the moment, it is a smart shape. Right, what we can do if it's a smart shape is change the corners and things. So this single radius here, you could change that. You could independently change all of these. But I had that as a single radius. And then from there, I can say I don't want one. That is what the smart in smart shapes means. But what I'm going to do here is convert it to curves. Now at that point, I can't do anything clever with the corners without using the corner tool and doing it all by hand. But I want this to look like a triangle. So the easiest way to do that is to select this point on the corner and just press delete. And now it looks like a triangle. And if we take that back, it starts to look like that's a slot. only half a slot at the moment, but at that end it looks like a slot. So I'm going to Command and J that, and now I've got a copy of it. Obviously, if I take it up to that end, it doesn't look right at all. Would it look right if I did that? Well, it would give you a different perspective, but it wouldn't look right. So it needs to be in that place, but it needs to be flipped. So with it selected, I'm going up to the toolbar and choose Flip Horizontal. And now it looks like that is a slot, and that is that dealt with. So Command and 0 take us out, and then take these pieces and group those together. And again, I would lock those, because that now is the two pieces. We've got what looks like the desk or the box and the background, which is in this one. And we have the slot. So let's start naming these. Who names their layers? You don't, do you? You've no idea.
I thought I did.
No, you don't.
Well, name something.
You name the snapshot, don't you?
But I also changed the word video title to something else.
Oh, right. Isn't that just where you change the text? Never mind.
No.
We'll see tomorrow when you do your next one. Right, so next thing we need to do is to get the page in there, or the piece of paper. So I need a rectangle, so we'll draw out a rectangle here. This one is going that way, so it's more, I mean, I'm just eyeballing the size, but more of that size. And it needed to be white, so let's make it white. Now, the thing with this is it needed two corners.
Carol names them.
Oh, I'm sure Carol would. In fact, I'm sure everybody here would, because I go on about it enough,
Except
don't I?
me, but I do.
You probably don't name them all because you've got a template, haven't you?
Yeah.
So the original stuff probably wouldn't be. Right, this needs two bits cutting off, but one bit is simple, the other bit less so, because it needs to be rotated like that, and this bit down the bottom needs to be missing. So some of that needs to look like it's gone down that slot. And in this corner was missing. So it's easier to do that with it straight on first. So let's put it there. Now again, because I'm going to be editing this in a way that isn't predictable. And what I mean by that is if I want to change the corners and stuff, then yes, I could leave it as a smart shape. But I actually here want to do something different. So what I'm going to do with it is convert it to curves. But this time, there's no point going to the corner and deleting it, because that will give us a triangle, and it doesn't look like that. So what I would do with that is I would put a new point there and there, and then delete that point. So I'm eyeballing that. I think it needs to be a little bit lower. So now when I take that point away, it just cuts the corner off. So I clicked to add the 2 points and then deleted the corner point. Now obviously that corner's gone. It's not a case of taking that corner and placing it somewhere and doing some magic with it. I now have to make that look like it's folded over. And how I did that was relatively straightforward. So I'm going to lock that just to make it easier. And I'm going to get the pencil tool. So let's just draw a line and see what we get with the pencil tool. Right, that looks like it's got the pressure applied to it that we had before. So in our pressure here, we need to reset that. We just want a straight line to start with. So if we look at that now, it's just a straight line. It probably needs to be a bit wider than that. Let's make it that wide. And it had its own colour, which is like a very dark blue. So I'm going to get the colour and apply the colour to it. So in there, hang on, in the colour, paste in the hex code, and it should be blue. Right, so now I've done that line, I know that that's right. So what I'm now going to do is get the pen tool, and I am going to draw on a corner there, like that. That's not quite the right position. So what I'll do with it is make it line up with that and up there like that, and then make it as big as I need to make it. So just get it in position like that. I think that needs to be up a bit. There we go. Now it's not bad. If we zoom out, it does look like it's a corner. In fact, I think the whole thing is probably a little bit big for the corner that we've taken off. So let's do that a bit. That's a bit better, I think. We'll find out, won't we? Maybe I need more corner taking off. And I do that by just moving these down. So moving those so they match up with the edge of that. But I think we could still go bigger, you know. I do. And then we could move that. So let's move that into place. And how's that looking? Not bad. Not bad. So moving those again so they match up with it. Right, that's not bad. But we zoom into this. The original looked literally like it was bent over, and instead of it just being a line, it looked like it had a shadow behind it. Now, before you start thinking, we've got effects, we can apply some effects, and you could, because you do have an outer shadow. So you could put an outer shadow on it. So let's put that on, but it's not quite the right look because it applies equally all the way around it. You'd have to fiddle. So outer shadow, not the way to do it. We want it to kind of have a different shape. So going to the stroke and taking that up a bit, I think I had it at 6 from memory, but 5 will do. But I have 2 ways to do this, and we've seen both. I could go in here, drag that down, and then drag the middle back up. And that's exactly what it looks like. That looks like a shadow. It looks more like a shadow as you go further out, but it looks like a shadow. That is one way to do it. We will undo that. Where's it disappeared to? What have you done? Good grief. Where are you? Why have you disappeared? That's bizarre. What's it done? It's there, I can see it. Have you done something weird with the colour? No, shouldn't have done something weird with the colour. There it is, that's the curve. And it's in the right order, and it's just not appearing. Why are you not appearing? Good grief, I've gotten... Well, it's a beta, isn't it? It's a beta, so it's playing with our mind. Oh dear. So what I'll do... Oh, I've just realised that's not right either. It needs to be up a smidgen. Right, I'll do it again. Right, so from there, straight down to there, and from there across. Now, because I already... that was the last effect that I had, you can see it has applied. What I want to do is to take away this here, so it looks like that. Great. So, with this selected, I can then use this width tool. So I think we need to zoom in on that. Right, you can see some tiny handles at the end and some tiny handles almost at the middle there. So both ends have got them and near the middle. Now, if I want this wider, then I can do that. And that just makes this corner look a little bit more bent. If I undo that, my other option is to take these down to nothing. Now you can see here we've got a little artifact there. It's a beta. This is what's happening. And we can take that down to there. Nothing to stop us going here and still making that a little bit wider, but we are interacting with it with this new tool rather than using this pressure panel over here where we're looking at the pressure panel and then we've got to look back at the artwork. So I can see that, yes, I would probably use that. So that is our ballot paper. The only other thing that I need to do with ballot paper before we move it and start chopping at it is I need to put a letter on it. So my letter here, in fact I don't need one of those, do I? Let's have my artistic text, and it just needs to be an X. Can't be a tick, can it, Mike? Naughty, no. Naughty. No. And I want it quite chunky, so I used Arial Black, and I think that worked quite well. Colour-wise, I want that to be the darkest one. Is that the darkest one? Let's get rid of that and have a look. I think that's the blue, so that will do okay. Right, so I'll put that in position there. Now at that point, I've got the background, I've got the X, and I've got the curve. And those three things together are the actual ballot paper. So let's group those together and call that vote. You've got a couple of options now when it comes to the rest of it, because I tilted it and then brought it down here and said, oh, it's about right there. But I've got this bit hanging off. So where does it need editing? And it needs editing. So this corner goes up to that line. Now what I need to do for that is to get hold of the curve and use the node tool. Add a node at the joints. That is far easier to do it at the joints. Grab the corner and just delete it. Now you could do that other ways. For example, you could have another bit at the bottom that you could cover it up with, or you could use the Boolean operations to do that. I just find that the easiest way to do it. If you decide, looking at that ballot may need to be a bit bigger. So hang on a minute, only grabbing the back. Let's grab the whole vote and make that bigger. If I want to do that, then you can see what's happened at the bottom. I would have to drag that down. It does snap to it though, if you have your snapping turned on, which I do. If you want to make that where you take it further down, so you want it like that, then you would need to go in to the actual background of the vote. You would need to get the node tool again, and you could reuse these nodes that you've got by dragging them up. So they snap again to the edge of that. You would just have to be careful that you don't do something like this, which totally distorts it. So you can either eyeball it or get it in the right position the first time. And there you go. That was the piece of artwork that I made. So have we got any questions about anything there?
No questions.
Oh, it looks like Tracy's managed to find a film that was less than engaging, shall we say, Tracy? Right, okay. We will move on. Right, let's save that. We'll have that as on the night, and that will do. Okay. We might be done with that, I'm not sure, can't remember. Let's find out. Oh, variable fonts. I've seen people getting excited about variable fonts. Right, variable fonts. I'm amazed it's taken till 2.5 to get them in here. If you've never heard of them, don't worry about it. Right, it's again only in the beta right now. So join the beta program, download it, have a play with it. What are variable fonts? Well, their proper name is Open Type Font Variations. Catchy, isn't it? And what a variable font is a single file. Now, the reason that a single file is important is if you install variations of a font, so you have an ultra bold and an ultra skinny and an italic, you have to install multiple files. A variable font is a single file. It contains multiple variations of a typeface, and that allows for on-the-fly customization for the weight, the width, the italic, the slant, or anything else. So there are, in a variable font, no explicit distinctions between the weights and the styles. So however slanted you want it, however heavy you want it, however wide you want it, or any other parameter that is specified, it's up to the user to decide. Now, that is very different than fonts where you buy a certain range of fonts. I mean, I've seen fonts with 30, 40 different variations, but you are restricted to one of those variations. If you wanted something between two options, you're out of luck. That is the basics of it. It sounds so good. Why didn't we have it before? Well, they sort of existed in the 90s. Because they really are a great idea. Why on earth did they get binned then? Because they were binned, but why? And like everything else in computers and life in general, the way things are going, there were too many cooks, and I don't mean Timothy this time. Oh, but if I could blame him, I would, wouldn't I? No, I don't mean Tim Cook. I mean just too many cooks. There was a specification, the Apple TrueType GX. This is like Betamax and VHS, isn't it? Because Betamax was far better. Yeah, guess who had a Betamax? I did. My mum liked Sony, that was why. Sony's the best equipment, she said, so we ended up with Betamax. And I remember spending £30, and then this was 1981, 1982. I don't know where I got £30 from back then. I spent £30 getting my hands on, what do you call them? Not a pre-record, but an actual shop-bought version of ABBA the movie. Dad was supposed to take me to see ABBA the movie, and he didn't. So maybe I got the money off him. That'd be right. So Apple had their variation, and Adobe had their variation, which was called Multiple Masters, which is like, don't call them that, because we have master pages, so don't call them that. But they kind of did what a variable font does. But there were too many specifications. So fast forward to 2016, and Microsoft invited the big players, the leading players, to a meeting at Microsoft about variable fonts, and an alliance was born. And that is where we are at today. That's why we are there today, because it is supported by all of the key players in this. Now, you will likely be thinking at this stage, it's in applications, but it's not just applications. It's in applications, and it's also available on the web. So typography on the web was fairly basic back in the day. Do you remember just saying whether you want it serif or sans serif? And that was it. You know, you just had to rely on which browser somebody was using, what platform somebody was using. But typography on the web, way, way better now, usually controlled with CSS. The problem with that, as far as web designers are concerned, and anybody using the web, to have a font that works on a phone and on a 30-inch plasma or whatever is tricky. So you would have to upload multiple files, multiple font files, and load each one depending. That takes up space, and it also increases what's called the page load, which is how long a page takes to load. So if you were using one font in a page, it would load relatively quickly. If you're using 20 in a page, you know, one of these long form sales pages with big bold fonts and stuff, it would take a lot longer. So if you could upload one single font and then style it on the fly with CSS, cascading style sheets, everything would work faster. So yes, it's in desktop applications like Publisher and Photo and Designer, but it's also very important for the web. Now, how a variable font works is they have axes. The basic axes are a weight and a width, but you're not limited to those axes. So you could also have an axis in a font that is telling it what slant to use, how italic it is, or anything else. And I do mean anything else. You could call these things purple cabbage. It would be fine. It would still work. So a variable font has design axes. How many it has depends on the person who has designed it. While I was looking for fonts to test this with, most of them had nothing but the weight. So all you would be changing would be how bold a font was. I did manage to find some that had a lot more though. And I think that's important because as we move forward, I can see these fonts having 20, 30 axes where somebody is building a font and they go to town with the options that are available for this font. Some of them will only have one, and it will be descriptive rather than saying the weight or the width. And I have got one font that I can show that with as well. So everything that we're looking at has to be designed like this. What does that mean for you when you're buying fonts? Well, at the moment, fonts variations can have different price points. Instead of just buying a font and getting every instance of the family of that font, you would be buying, at the minute, they could be individually priced. So if you know that your client is using ultra thin cabbage, that's the only one you need to buy. If you're buying a variable font, it could well be more expensive because it's like you buying the entire font family. So that's something else to consider. All the ones that I'm using are totally free at the moment. I would say, though, as I've just said, there's definitely scope for improvement with them. They have not taken them as far as they could. But we will head off and we will have a look at that. So let's go into here. Right, first thing to think about with these things. I'm going to show you, if I can, where's my mouse gone? There we go. My fonts. So we'll open up a Finder and go and have a look at the font folder. It will be the same on PC, except it will be in a different location. So I need to go to the library. So I'm going to the Go menu, and you see library is not an option until I hold down the Option key, and then I can go to the library. In library, you have fonts and you have font collections. The collections are just meta information. Your fonts are in your fonts folder. So to show you what I was talking about, these are all the fonts that I've got, 661 of them. And if we look at them like Garamond, look how many different variations of Garamond there are. So we have bold, bold italic, regular, semi-bold, and each of these is fixed. That is what it looks like. You have very little wiggle room with these. You would need to change the font to change what it looks like, and those are the variations you have for Garamond. Some of them have even more. I think I've got Alien Encounters installed for a MacBites poster. I think I used it once, but it's kind of cool, so I left it there. And if you look down here, quite a lot of them have got many different versions. We talked last week about Ember, Amazon Ember, and you can see that's got 12 variations. So when you download it, unzip it and install it, you are installing multiple files. There's nothing wrong with that, but if you want something between that skinny one and that one, again, you're out of luck unless there is one that is perfect for you. But all of those are Ember, even though some of them look very, very different. So if you can imagine, if that was a variable font, there would be one font called Amazon Ember, and everything that would happen inside it. Now, this one here, ASAP, this is the first variable font that's listed in here. And you can see it actually says variable font. There are two of them. This one is italic, this one is not. So that's what the font looks like. That's what the italic one looks like. They could have put those together. I have no idea how old they are. Maybe that's why they didn't. But that is what you have there. If you carry on looking, these are all, there's my Bodoni. So again, there's quite a lot of those. Some of them only have one, like typewriter. But if you look down here, most of them that are variable say they are variable. So I install those. This one is not variable, so you can see how many different versions of it there are. I think that one's going to win the prize, isn't it? At 36 variations. So if that was a variable font, there would be just one file, and that's it. And not only would there be one file to manage and juggle, but you would have more variations than the 36 variations you actually have there. So some of these are variable fonts. There's another one. That one's weird. I'll show you that one. It only has one axis, but it's interesting what they've done with it. So that is what your font folder would look like. I also, although this has got a mind of its own on my machine, I installed these, but I did this before and it's not working again. So Foodie Mag, they've disappeared again. But these were the variable fonts that I installed. So I created a library in there. And how I did that was I added them to the font folder in here, and then I dragged them into here. I created the library and I dragged the fonts into here. And that created what we've got there. So that's an easy way for me to uninstall them if I want to do that. But that is how that works. This error, I have no idea what's going on with this. It just does my head in on a regular basis. Do you know what it's not, Mike? It's not sick and it's not dope. No, it's not. It just doesn't work. But that seems to be an issue just on this machine. Okay, so that is what we have with the fonts. Now, next thing I'm going to do is show you here where you can get some fonts. So if you go to fonts.google.com/variable fonts, it lists all of the variable fonts. Now, what you've got here is a long list of fonts. All of these are free of charge, and they work both locally in applications, and they also work on the net because you can download them and then upload them to your website and refer to them. So what we have over on the left-hand side is the font family. Now, the only thing I find a bit weird with this, they're just named. I have no idea at this stage what they actually look like, and I think it would be much better if I did. But what we're actually looking at here is when we look at the axes, it's showing you that this font, AR1 Sans, has two axes, a weight and something called ARRR. What's that? I've got no idea. I have absolutely no idea, because they all have different axes. So this one's got two. The next one, Advent Pro, has three. And we can see that this one is italic. As we carry on down, some of them only have one thing, which is the weight, which is how bold it is, which was what I said. Many, many of them only have the one axis. But as we keep going down, and the ones that have multiple axes, it tends to be italic and the weight, or the width and the weight. And if you look at those, all of them are 2, 2, 2, all the way down. This one, these ones, Anybody and Archivo, italics, width and weight. So those are the three most popular axes for these. But I didn't give up. No, I carried on and I thought we need more than this, we need more than this. And I did find some that did have more options like these. I'm assuming that that is slant rather than italic. And there were two and I have no idea what they mean. But what it is telling you next to each of these is the default value for it. So for instance, the slant is at 0, the weight is 400, which is sort of middling. And then this one is 0. Those are the defaults. But next to that, you have the minimum for what is displayed as a slider. So the lowest you could set the slant to is -12, and the maximum is 0. In the weight, and we've seen this before, the weight of a font, we saw it in relation to cascading style sheets when we were styling Obsidian. And a font can be between 100 and 900. With 400, 450, 500 being around an average bold, but you can make it much darker up to 900 and take it right down to 100. This option goes between 0 and 100, and this one goes between 0 and 100. But some of them are very different, so the weight here can't be taken lower than 400. And that is what this information in this page is showing you. I don't think, to be honest, I would pick a font based on this information. What I am much more likely to do is click on the font and actually have a look at it, which was what I did. So if we look in here, this one, now it's saying 17 selected, that's what I downloaded. But you can in here see this is Chantel Sans, and these are the options you've got. That was one, this was another one I picked, so it's showing you the fonts that I'm going to download. But if we take a look at one of these, like that one, you can see in this window, this is the home page for that font. So it's giving you a preview. If you want different preview text, you can type that in here. And all of these pages are the same. So if you get used to what these pages look like, you can do quite a good triage on whether you want to download this font without having to download it, install it, and then test it. So you can change the text, you can change the size in here. So what we've got down here, the different styles, it's showing you, you can make that much bigger or you can make it smaller so you can read the whole thing. And it's showing you variations. Now, it can't show you them all, obviously, because it's up to you what number you have selected. So what it's doing is, it's saying if you selected light 300, it would look like that. If you selected light 300 italic, it would look like that. So it's a selection of options in here. So you've got regular 400 and italic 400, then you've got medium, which is 500 and 500 italic, and so forth as we go all the way down here to 800 is what that's going to. Now, you can then in here choose one of the pre-configured options. Now, the pre-configured options, you're not limited to these, but what they are is they are available for you to choose as a little bit like a shortcut. So I could choose my bold 700 and it shows me what that would look like in this preview here. You can also then say, do you want to see it as italic? Tick the box and it will show you that in italic. That's the kind of font I would put on a post-it note, I think, in a document. I think this here looks about right on the right-hand side. Right, then you've got some articles below that. So there, you go off and have a read of them, tells you about choosing a font and stuff. So get used to the layout of these pages because it'll be much easier to test the type in here. Now that's the specimen option. You also have a type tester, and I could show you this in one of these fonts. It's the same in all of them. But what this does show you in here, you can select the font from up here. So you can have different fonts in there, different preview text. And then you have 3 blocks. You've got the heading at the top, you've got this down below, and then you've got the normal text at the bottom. Notice here that you have 3 styles, it's telling you. And when you click on these, it lights up underneath what style is applied. So this first one is the first style. If I move to the second, it highlights the second paragraph. And if I move to the third, it highlights that. Right, in here, let's take the top one. It is showing you in here whether you have it italic or not. I toggle that on, it automatically updates style 1. I can then change the weight in 2 ways. I can either choose one of these, saying what would that look like in 700, or I can tweak this 1 point at a time and get an idea for what that would look like. Now, what we're looking at here, the italic, the weight, the bounce, the informality and the spacing, each of these is an axis for the font. So if I change the bounce, you can see the bounce in the font. This is starting to look like a modern version, isn't it, of Comic Sans?
It is, isn't it?
Yes, I could imagine that. We used to have a music teacher that put letters like that, off skew. But this particular font has an axis for bounce. Then it's got informality. So let's take that up and it starts to look even worse. Oh, we could really go to town on this. And you can change the spacing as well. So you can make it so you literally can't read the thing. But remember, you are doing all of this in this page, in the home page of the font. You have not downloaded it and installed it at this point. Don't need to. You can do all of that and test it in here. That's what that looks like for style 1. If I move down to style 2, you'll notice that these reset themselves to match this second paragraph. But I could go into there and start making changes for that. We'll increase the informality. We'll increase the spacing. There you go. And we'll make it much heavier. Like that. And we'll just change the last one, do you know, because we can. So we'll take the weight of that down. We'll take the bounce of it down to about there, and we'll just tweak it like that. There we go. And as you click on these, it's showing you what you have set in little pills at the bottom, and it highlights it in there. It's showing you which one that is applied to. And that is your type tester. So it's a really good way to work. You could in here, this bottom one that we've got, you could also change the size of this if you're saying, you know, mine's 22, what would that look like? Or it's a different colour. You know, I want this, you know, on a red background. I want the text to be white. What would that look like? And you can do all of that in here, which is what I am suggesting. So you can even change the line spacing there or double it like that. So it's a really good way to preview without having to download and fiddle with them. Right, then you can see the glyphs that are supported within this font. This is really important if these fonts are free fonts, because sometimes in a free font they give you the letters but they don't give you the numbers, or they don't give you all of the accented characters. So somewhere in here we'll have Renee's E, won't we? There we go. So that would be what that actually looked like. Oh, it's going weird. There we go, that one. Also in here, if we scroll down, you've got all of the other special characters that this font has or supports. And you can open these up and check it before you download it. If you remember, we fell lousy, didn't we, with Australian script, which has no numbers in it, which was fine until it was the brand font for Brooklyn's 196. Yeah, we needed a 196. So we had to use another font and change the weight of it. This would have been a godsend. This one does have numbers in it, so we have no problems with this. And it's got all of the punctuation in there as well. But the point is you can check all of that before you download it. So we've got the euro in there, we've got the pound in there, we've got the dollar in there. Is there a dollar in there? I'm not seeing a dollar. It must be there, surely. No, I'm not seeing it. Not seeing it. Might be somewhere else. But there you've got that. Right, the last options you have in there is about and the license. And this will explain what you can and can't do with it and how many times it's been downloaded and who's designed it and so forth. So I'm suggesting you get really used to these pages. It will make life much easier for you. And as I say, each one of these is the same. So let's try this Roboto one. Again, you can see this is what the specimens are looking like. You have the type tester and it looks exactly the same as the other one, but obviously the font is different. You will notice in here that the available axes are different. We have weight, width, slant, ascender, height, but what we don't have is the options that we had on the other one, which was the jiggle option or whatever it was called. So each one of these will be different, but the interface to tweak them will look similar. So when you decided that you want to download it, you click the download button and it adds it to your bag at the top. But as I say, all of these fonts are free. So I then downloaded them and I installed them. Now I had to install them. Normally I would show installing them, but my machine has a mind of its own when it comes to fonts. So I installed them and then I rebooted just to be safe. Because between me installing them and me trying to demonstrate them, they usually vanish. And then bad words are said. So they were there when I left them. So fingers crossed they are still there now. So let's get rid of that and let's go into the publisher beta and see them in action. We've got any questions on anything so far?
Nope.
Right, I have a really exciting document with the quick brown fox. Lola says she's not lazy, doesn't she? She's just a lady of leisure. So, I have got open here two things. I have the character panel open. And what is different in the character panel, in the beta version, is that we have an extra button there. And at the moment, it's dimmed out. That is our variable option. Right, if we go into here and I select that, it's still dimmed out because this font is Arial and it's not a variable font. Now, as soon as I've got the text selected, my context menu switches to all things font, and you will see up there we have another variable button. Again, it's still dimmed out, but that is where you access it. So we would need to choose a variable font in here. Luckily, most of them declare themselves to be a variable font. I know that ASAP is one. That was the first one. Now, with a variable font applied, you can see that this button is now active, and so is this button in the character panel. So, in either place, I click on it and it shows me the variations. This is a fairly standard variable font, so it has two axes, a weight axis and a width axis, and you customize them using the slider. So you can take the weight of that right down or right up, and then you can change the width of it. Oh, you can make it really hideous. So there is a limitation here. In this case, you can take it up to 900 on the weight or down to 100 on the weight. And the width is going between 75 and 125. Now, what that actually means is anybody's guess. It depends on the programmer who designed the font. I would just treat these, I would be less concerned with the numbers and more concerned with the position on the slider. Do I want that kind of middling? Does it look right? Do I want it middling? Than I would be with the numbers. and then just change it like that. But that is why you have weight and width. They are the two axes that were built into this font. That's it from the character panel, but with it selected, if we go up to there, you get exactly the same options. So you can see the numbers were the same and it works in exactly the same way. So if you had a font and you were trying this font and you thought, well, I want to make that italic, well, you're not doing it in there. There is no italic axes. There's no slant axes. It just depends on the actual font itself. Some of them only have one. So let's change the font to something else. Can I remember what all of these were called? There was one that began with a C, I know there was. I think there was more than one with a C, so let's have a look at those. Cabin was one. So that's a variable font. Again, you can tell because the V's are active, and when you go in there, that one has width. So take that down, and it has weight. So again, they've got the same two. I would say the majority of the free fonts are going to have at least those two, although I have seen many that only have one. So let's carry on in here and find another. I'm sure there was one with a C. We will come back to climate change because that's very different. Oh dear. Right, this is one which looked great as a demo. I thought, oh, this is going to be great to demo. I actually don't dislike that font. But when I went in, the only thing I could change was the weight. So this is an example of one of them where literally you can only go between 10 and 40 on the weight. So you can't take that anywhere near 900. You've got this slider and that's the only thing that you can change. But it does mean that, if you need it a fraction lighter than one of the presets that you would have in the old style fonts, you can do that. So you do have complete control, but only between the minimum and the maximum. And in this case, with the weight, there is nothing else that you can change in there. Now, let's go and change it to Roboto. Right, I already had this Roboto installed, but I've installed Flex and Serif, and these are variable fonts. So once that's applied, we have the V active in both of these places, and this time we've got more variations. We have more axes: the optical size, the weight, the grade, the width, and the slant. So let's have a play with them all. The optical size there is changing what that looks like, so we'll leave it middling. The weight there, you can take it up to 1,000 or down to 100. And it does make it look like a totally different font. That's starting to look like one of those women's magazines, isn't it, where they shout at you in the headlines. So we'll make that middling again. Then you've got the grade, and the grade is changing not how bold it is, but it's changing the shape of the letters. It looks far less like you're being shouted at. Then you've got the width, which is stretching the characters themselves. That goes between 25 and 151. And you've got the slant, which, if we take that down, is going from -10 all the way up to 0. So it can't slant the other way. Some fonts will be able to, but this one is slanting that way, which is enabling you to slant that font even though there isn't an italic option. That's dimmed out and so's the bold. So that's an example of a font that has far more axes. Now these axes are fairly logical. What it looks like optically, the weight of it, the grade, the width and the slant do make sense. But there are some special cases, and these are more likely to be headline fonts that you would use for headlines. But in here we had one that was in the C's. It is climate crisis. So if I just apply that looks like Look-In from the 70s. Who's old enough and from the UK to remember Look-In? It was a kids magazine, wasn't it?
Me.
Yeah, you remember it. Yeah, I wanted it. They had this pair of glasses they were giving away free on the front cover. And my mum said, we'll go and get it tomorrow. And they'd sold out. Everywhere had sold out. She never lived that down. Do you know what she had to do after that? get me a subscription to it in case they ever put them on again. And they did. And I got these glasses. And that's just the kind of font that they would have used. Now, what you would expect that you could change in here, I would suspect, would be the width and the weight, as per usual. But think what it's called. It's called Climate Crisis. So this font only has one axis, an axis. But when we go in and have a look at it, it's called year, and it starts in 1979. So this shows you that you can have the font in various states, but you can call it what you like. So they have actually decided that, 1979, and I'm assuming here, because that's nice and chunky, that it's representing the icebergs. And if we take this up, the ice is melting until we probably can't read the font. So let's take it up to... I would like to say I've been long gone by 2050, but I intend to be around in my 80s, so I won't have done. But what that is indicating is like the deterioration in the ice caps. Oh, that's political, isn't it? But the point is, you can call these axes what you like. In this case, it's a different kind of font. It's like a distressed, deteriorating font. So if we were to type in there 2024, that's where we're at now. So you can still just about read it. So I would suspect with these fonts, as they become more and more popular, we'll have quirky things like that in them, where instead of just changing the weight and the width and stuff like that, it's actually changing what the font looks like. Another one I had in here, I think that started with an S. Let's go get that one. There we go, Slovak. And that one is, I guess that's kind of Middle European, would you say? But in here, it has only one, but it's a style. So it's a totally different style of font within this font called Slovak. So as I move these, you get a different look. And as you carry on, it's a totally different look. So as you move over here, completely different. You now got chunks out of the O and the E, which you did have here, but it had a kind of tail on it, and then it didn't. So different styles can be put in there. So in essence, somebody designing a font can now do anything they like, and then you would choose your font probably based on what the font can actually do. Would you do that? I think you probably would. It gives you a lot more flexibility. So we got any questions about any of that?
Yeah, there's two questions.
Okay, where we go.
First question was from Ignacio, who said, are glyphs also included with the variable font? I guess it may be up to the designer to include them.
It would be. It definitely would be. Now, this Slovak one is a demo. And if you notice in here, there's none of these available. We've got capitals, all caps, and we've got small caps, but we don't have a lot of options in there. So it's going to depend on whether it's a demo or not, whether it's a free version or not, or how generous the designer's going to be. But yes, they are standard fonts. They just have an additional morphing benefit that you can change them in ways that the designer has decided to allow you to change them. But other than that, they are exactly a standard font with built-in magic. What else have we got?
Okay. Sir Cake says, can you make a sentence start light and get bolder, like a gradient?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. Probably only manually at the moment.
And Ignacio again, I think this is more of a comment, but it's a question. I've always wondered why the fonts list on Windows only lists the first 11 fonts and doesn't span to the bottom of the screen like on macOS.
I would imagine that is a Windows issue. There could be compatibility issues. One thing that struck me, and I didn't have time to test it, let's go into Keynote and have a look at it. I wondered what would happen if an app didn't support variable fonts. What would it do? So let's just get a new presentation and we'll choose the presentation title. So variable fonts, and go into here and see what's listed. I know do you have this in Excel? But in Word and PowerPoint, the fonts aren't actually alphabetical. They are alphabetical, but they're also grouped, and I don't know what the grouping is.
Oh.
It's weird. What we got in here? Right, you see, like that's got DS Digital at the top. I have no idea why. Probably the last font that I used. So as I'm going down here, one was called ASAP, one was called Cabin, wasn't it? There's ASAP. Oh, that applies. So it looks like it does support it. But is there an interface for me to change elements? And it's going to depend on the application. So as I look at that, it doesn't look like it. I have layout options, but this is the size of the text and the spacing and stuff. This is not the actual text styles. So I've got the presets in here. I could do that, but you'll notice there's no sliders, is there? I've got some options in there, but again, these aren't a standard interface for it. So it looks like the fonts are actually showing, but it looks like you don't get any of the magic of them unless the application supports it. Hence the importance of Serif actually having added this to their apps, that you now have an interface to it. But I think it's going to take some time before we have a consistency of options in there, and they're always going to be different depending on which developer has developed the font. So it looks like you can use them, but you don't have all of the benefits of them. But I'm pretty sure PowerPoint or Word is going to throw its toys out of the pram. Let's have a look at Word. You can see how often I use this. It doesn't know that I want Word. Right, let's have a look. Can we just do new? Right. So, hello world. Right. Yeah, it says all fonts, but as I go down here, some of these have got a logo next to them to tell me to download them. So I'm presuming they're Microsoft fonts. Some of these are my fonts. I got them installed, like BD Cartoon Shout. That's a MacBites font. And as I scroll down, we had Cabin, didn't we? Yeah, it is listed. But these are presets. They are similar to when you used to install 37 versions of a font. But unless there's an interface within the application, you couldn't have something between medium and semi-bold. You are stuck with these presets. So let's have a look if I'm right about these fonts at the bottom. I'm sure I've seen other fonts that appear bizarrely out of order. Yeah, there you go. So we come down to Zapfino, which is like the Z font. There's only one Z font, and then it starts again. And it goes back to A. Why does it do that, Mike? I'm not even sure I've got these fonts installed. Some of them I have, but I don't recognise some of them. So fonts are going to be very different in each application, but at least you're going to have consistency within the serif applications. What you've got elsewhere, well, it could be anything. It could be absolutely anything. It just depends on what's supported by the application. And each application seems to display the fonts in a different order, and I have no idea why. I have read the Office Watch thing, that we used to be subscribed to. And, every week there's somebody asking something about fonts because it's very different in Microsoft applications. So I can only assume on Windows they've got some weirdness going on. That's the best I can do with that, weirdness. Right, what else have we got?
Ignacio's just asked a question. With the variable font, does that mean there's no kerning or tracking that we can apply?
You should be able to, yes. So let's come out of there. Don't save that. You do have all of these options as long as it's been left enabled. Now this one hasn't. So you can see in there I've got a little bit of wiggle room setting that from auto to 0, but not much. So it depends if it's available. But yes, I can change the options in here as long as they are active, which sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. And that's the case whether the font is variable or not. It depends how the developer has left that. But yes, you can carry on tweaking depending on the font. What else have we got?
That's it.
Okay. Right. In that case, let's head into here, where I have Need to move this way, move this way. I've got the freebies. Right, all of these freebies that are about to be put in are variable fonts. So the first place is the one that I have shown you that I got mine from, which was Google Fonts. I figured that was the safest place to go. I don't think this is the best interface to choose the font. You're having to go off the name or drill down and have a look. But that is fonts.google.com/variable fonts, and that shows you all the variable fonts that Google have. In addition to that, there are a range of other places to try. So one is called typetype.org. That had a whole range of variable fonts. So you can see, again, there is a filter at the top, and I filtered for variable, and then there was a whole range of them. That one I liked because it showed you the fonts in situ. There were samples of the fonts. Not all of these are free. So if you're looking for free ones, you may have to filter again to get free fonts. But that is typetype.org. Another one is Font Space, and this one had, I think it was 4 or 5 pages of variable fonts. There were 65 free fonts, and some of those look really nice. I could see me using that Bellagia for the cookery magazine. I like that. I thought an Italian dish, it would work well with that. So there was a whole range of those there. It's more of a pain for me, to be honest, to have to download these things and then try and get them installed and not lose them. So if Apple could sort themselves out, that would be great. Another one that I found that had the benefit of these great previews was Fontesk, which I read as Font Desk, but there's no D in it. Fontesk. And again,
I just read it as Font Desk.
Yeah, I thought you would. You just do, don't you? Because many years ago, sites used to be called like Xdesk, whatever it was, and you just had the word desk on, didn't you? Autodesk, wasn't that one?
Yeah.
Again, these have got great previews, but do think, depending on the font, that like Rem Sans that we've got and that Tilde Sans, they could look completely different depending on what options are in the font. But it's a starting point for you to look at it. You know, you're going to have a vague idea of what you want that to look like. And then just download that and start tweaking it. So, you getting those in there, Mike?
Yeah, I'll put them in.
Okay. Right, so shorter, as I said, coming up. You've got to be with us on Tuesday. It's a bank holiday weekend, isn't it, as well? Oh, rested. Apple have an event on Tuesday. They are trying to get into your wallet. Their figures are not good. So they want money from you. So it is a weird time. You're being warned. It's 3 p.m. from Apple, but we're going live an hour earlier. So it's Tuesday, 7th of May, 2 p.m. UK time, which is... That's 6 o'clock Pacific, isn't it? Sorry, Kim. That's an early walk for you right there. And it's 9 a.m. Eastern. But for Renee, it's 3 in the afternoon, which is great. So don't miss that. You will find that at macbites.fm. That does redirect, doesn't it? macbites.co.uk/live. He's going to check that now. I think it should. I must admit, when I saw that, everyone's getting giddy over the... Yes, it does. Good. Everyone's getting giddy over the pencil, thinking that there'll be a squeeze feature. But when I saw that and the colours, I mean, obviously it's meant to be an apple, but the way that they've drawn that hand is quite inelegant, because I thought it was the poo emoji. You know, when I saw it the very first time, it was much smaller than that, and I thought, why have they got the poo emoji on it? But it's not the poo emoji. But I think it was Tracy who said if they're the colours. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. They wouldn't do a green one, surely. I was hoping not. Because there isn't a space grey or a silver or something inoffensive. No, they're all very offensive, like the pink. But we will be there. And hopefully it'll be better than the last one, which was what we said at the last one and the one before that. But, you know, it's there and you need to know. And consider it a warm-up for WWDC. We'll also be back next week, same time, same place, on the 10th. And available on demand, you will have everything that we've got, which is youtube.com/Elaine Giles. There is a dedicated After Hours playlist. So if you can't find the show you are looking for, you will find every single show in that playlist. the latest show at the top, and it goes right back to episode 1. How are you doing, Annie? What episode are you up to in your MacBites marathon? You will find that playlist at macbites.co.uk/After Hours playlist. And of course, we love you guys. And if you love us, you could leave us a like, because we like that. Then you could subscribe. And while you're subscribing, you could hit the notification bell. And that way you'll be notified when we go live. You have to be careful with that, Tracy, though. It might wake Mr. T, and we wouldn't want that, would we? Right, comments. Comments are so important. In terms of how the stats are going, don't ask. Going from bad to worse, but, fingers crossed. But keep going with the comments. Keep going with the comments. I know you can only comment after the event, but if you are subscribed to the MacBites mail, you will get a follow-up mail with a list of all the timings in. All you need to do is hit that first one and go and say enjoyed the show. That's it. All you need to do. Right, there is my list at elainegiles.com/VIP. There is the MacBites list, which is macbites.co.uk/macbites-mail. Then there's Slack, which is where we carry on the conversation between the shows. If you are not already a member, you can join for free at macbites.co.uk/join Slack. And if you are already a member, all you need to do is go to macbites.co.uk/Slack and it will forward you on to the relevant place. Then there is our resources page. So they've been up there a few weeks now. Hopefully you're finding it useful. Any links that you need to find, you will find up there. So you only really need to remember one link, which is macbites.co.uk/resources. And you will find in there the ability to upload a file. You can see the MacBites calendar, subscribe to the calendar. There's links to all the websites. There's links to all the stuff on YouTube. There's links to our socials. And there's also links to all of the publisher sessions and the planner page sessions as well. All up there. Right, I need to move across there and do that. Excellent. Right, we got any more questions?
No, that was...
Oh, Tracy said she wouldn't mind purple as an iPad colour. I've only ever had silver or space grey. That's all I've ever had. Your mother's is pink, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, pink's not going to work for me, but I don't know. Oh, Renee's hidden his credit card. Oh, no, Renee. Kim may be a little late. You see, it's a ludicrous time, Kim. Where are they? They're in California, aren't they? So surely they're in... What's Timmy up to? The last one was midnight. This one's 6 a.m. Oh, you know what it'll be, don't you?
It'll be a pre-record.
Well, it'll be a pre-record, yeah. I'm thinking it's this problem with Alarmgate.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe Timmy's alarm hasn't gone off, so it's a bizarre o'clock. That'll be what it is. Would I buy a purple one? Oh, good grief. I'd rather not. I like my tech just kind of muted. Classy. What's wrong with silver? Can we just go back to that? Because, if you've got to make a choice... It's like with a watch. I didn't make a choice with a watch, did I? I've only ever gone for the cheapest watch. Whether the cheapest one is in silver, that's what I'm having. iPad's slightly different because they're going to last longer. And I know you put them in a case, but to be honest, my 2018 iPad, which is the 11-inch, I wanted a new case for it. The case has seen better days. So I wanted a new case for it. I have had Amazon upside down. I cannot find a case that does not have this massive slot at the top for the pencil. It never leaves the house. And I don't have the pencil stuck to it. So why do I want this huge plastic thing at the top of it? A carbuncle. I just cannot find the same case that it's got right now, which was just a fold over. It was magnetic on the back, just folded over to the front. That was it. Can't find a replacement. I've even got the link to the one I originally bought, and it's just not available. So I'm grumpy with that. So putting it in a case is one thing, but when you come to get a replacement, I should have bought 2 at the beginning. I mean, it's lasted reasonably well. It's 6 years. It's lasted 6 years, but it's starting to fray. And I can't find another case that's the same as the case I've got. So I don't like to rely on a case. Okay, I'm catching up with the chat here. Would you put it in a case, Tracy? And would you get a purple case for it? Tracy may be in the market for an iPad. I've got an M1 12.9. I should probably be in the market for an 11-inch. Whether I will be or not depends on the price. And I know Apple. They'll probably make it that the new pencil is fabulous, but it only works with the new iPad. This is how come we bought an iPad 2, wasn't it? Because they had that case. Do you remember the red leather thing?
The one that bent round.
Well, it was the magnetic one, wasn't it? That was the thing. The iPad was mediocre, but the case, it was fabulous. So I reckon they may be thinking that. I have to think about that. You're very welcome. 2 steps away. That's Ignacio, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, right. You're very welcome. Says that. Thanks for a great MacBites After Hours. Right. 4 years old. Mine is 6 years old this year. It's not slow, but you know that thing of like the battery isn't going to last forever and all of that. And do you want to be mid-cycle and then need to buy one? So it probably is time, but it's going to depend on the price. Also, while everybody's been going absolutely crazy about how fabulous the OLED thing is, people are now saying they're not sure about it because it leaves burn on. And I'm like, really? Are we going back to that? So I don't know. I will sit back and I will watch. But it's not a foregone conclusion that I'll be buying anything at all. You're very welcome, Sir Cake. Thank you so much, Love MacBites. I learn so much each time. Oh, Kim puts a case on the iPad too. You don't care about the colour. I must admit, with the majority of the cases that I've got, each one has a slightly different case for a reason. I always remember with iPad 1, do you remember that monstrosity of a case? We bought the official case, never again. I don't know what that was made of, but it attracted fingerprints. You know, the police would have been proud of it, wouldn't it? For how it attracted fingerprints. You could not keep it clean. But at the time, you're like buying something that you've not seen. And you think, well, better get the case as well. Oh, and I better get the charger. The charger was never out of the box, mine. Because you took yours out, tried it, didn't work. That was it. Just got left there. So iPad 1, as soon as I got iPad 2, I thought I'm getting rid of that case. And I got this cheap plastic back for it, like a rubberized plastic back. Changed the entire device for me. Changing that case made the device a different device. So most of my devices have different cases for different purposes. So there's one iPad I've got. It's older than the hills. I think it's 2014. And the case on it, like self stands. You can fold it back and then it kind of stands on itself. Origami. And I've got now TV on it. And that's the only one I can watch without the ads. I don't know why. Should be able to watch it on 3, but don't ask. So what I did with that was I left it in this case because it's then self-standing. Another one I've got doesn't even have a cover on the front. The one that I'm talking about that I can't get a replacement case does. It's magnetic on the back and it literally just folds around onto the front. It's like it's not got a case on it. Other ones I've got have just got like a back on it. So the case makes a massive, massive difference. Most of my cases, you can't really see what colour it is. I think that was the thing with your mum's phone, wasn't it? I think it was pink. But whereas her old one had a white front, this one had a black front this time. And as soon as it was in the case, you couldn't tell what colour it was. But, against my religion, I bought a pink case for the woman. Do you remember that? You buy a pink case for your mother-in-law and what happens? Oh, you bought this pink case. Would you like all this Barbie stuff? No, I wouldn't. No, stop offering me pink things. Don't give me pink things. But she got this new phone, didn't she? That was like 10 times faster than the last one. 10 times more the storage. Everything transferred across, so all her photos were there, all backed up. And what did she say? Oh, I like the case. We could have got away with just buying a new case.
You realise she's got the newest phone now.
She has the newest phone, she does. She's also got the newest iPad.
I was just going to say that.
She does, but it was the was it the iPad Air we got, or just a standard iPad?
Standard iPad.
I have totally lost track of the different devices. It's ludicrous now. It wasn't a Pro. That's all I can tell you. It wasn't a Pro model, but she did say this week, didn't she? And I quote: "The iPad was the best gift ever." This was from the woman who said, "I don't need an iPad. Don't waste your money." And I said to Mike, once she's got it, you will prize it out of her cold dead hand, just like my father. And what's she like with it now? If it has to be on charge for 5 minutes, she's having a nosebleed. Loves it. Absolutely loves it. Right, let me catch up here.
Jammy's just logged in, so
Night, Jamie.
we'll see you next week.
Oh, that'll teach you.
Stay safe, guys.
Put my case photo on Slack. Okay, Tracy, I'll get Mike to remind me. Right. I've had Amazon upside down, and even when I do a search for the name, it comes up with a different model. I'm grumpy about that. Right. Oh, purple's Carol's favourite colour. I must admit, the wallpaper on my iPad is purple. It'd probably match nicely. Renee has his M2 13-inch, no need to upgrade. Well, there wasn't last time, apart from the fact you threw it down the stairs, Renee. So is there any likelihood of an imminent accident? We won't tell Mrs. Renee if you won't. Sir Cake's 12.9 inches Intel. You spent far too long on the Magic Keyboard. Oh, too much on the Magic Keyboard to upgrade. I've never really gone for a keyboard on an iPad. I find that bigger iPads, I quite like typing on the glass with a haptic feedback. I have no problem with that at all. So I've never bothered with a keyboard. That was why I got the MacBook Air, wasn't it? But we don't talk about the MacBook Air because it makes me unhappy.
Bad words to say.
Yes, they are. Oh, Stephen's got a 7-year-old iPad 10.5. Very slow, hard on battery, especially using Vivaldi and Obsidian. I've got a 10.5 from 2015. Wasn't it? Yeah. Hang on, was it 2015? No, I don't think it was. The 2015 one was the first gen, wasn't it? Must have been 2017. Yes, I think the 10.5 I've got is 2017. It was when we actually went in on release day, but we waited until Mike came home from work. Like, I think I'll go in and have a look at the iPads, and we came out with 3. Yes, I got the 12.9 and the 10.5, and I love that 10.5. That was my favourite iPad. It just felt right in the hand. The weight was right. It had a little rubberised plastic back on it. Loved it. But yeah, the battery's a bit on the dodgy side. But I must admit, it's still my favourite iPad, that one. HomePod with a screen would be good. Nice. I never understood why they didn't do a kind of A-Lady device where they took the AirPort Extreme and turned it into like a clever speaker that did everything. Something that did everything. But they've just never gone down that route. I mean, have they actually ever said that the Apple TV is still anything other than a toy? They're bizarre, Apple. They really are. Oh, Tracy's got a keyboard case as well. Might not be able to justify getting another one of those. Logitech one. That's the problem. If I have used a keyboard on my iPad, but the keyboard that I use is my standard keyboard. It attaches to 3 Bluetooth devices. So I just push a button and carry on. But it's not a dedicated one that's in a case for the iPad. They're just too expensive. They really are ludicrously priced. So good evening, Jammy. This sociable business. What about being sociable with us? Yes, tell them that. Ignatio's wife recently purchased an iPad 9th Gen with a case and screen protector. Not the latest, but good reviews. A lot were saying it's still as good. That's what we found with Mike's mum's. I mean, obviously she's not trying to do video editing or anything like that with it, but it's more than capable. More than capable. The only thing that pushes me towards the Pro is that they're so powerful they'll probably last longer. I would imagine she's going to get to a point that even though her iPad is younger than mine and Mike's, it's going to reach a point where it can't be updated. And probably the Pro model would carry on for a little bit longer. But it is getting to that state now. I was much happier when they only had a certain range of iPads. And you know, the choice was easy. But now I don't even know how many iPads they've got. So what I tend to do is just like, what's the most expensive? What's the others? And then see if it's worth the difference. Right. Oh, Jammy's eating. Good grief. At this time of night. I didn't have much luck with dinner, did I? I opted for oatcakes, but they were a bit on the soggy side. So Mike had to disrupt his dinner to go and get me another packet. This is because we were working late, weren't we? Right. Have I tried eBay? I guess I could. I'm just thinking what state it'd be in. It'd be nice if the case I got was new. I remember when every time there's like a new phone and we're not buying one, or a new watch and we're not buying one, I tend to buy like a new watch strap and a new case and convince myself it's a new device. So I'd really like a new case for this thing because the one I've got is literally falling to pieces. But I don't really want one that's got the pencil thing in it because I just don't need it. I mean, if you think about it, it's a bit illogical that they should do two versions, one with a pencil and one without, because not everybody's got a pencil. It doesn't come with it. You have to pay extra for that, and some people just don't bother. If you're using an iPad for consumption, you know, pretty much you're watching sports on it or whatever, and films, you don't need a pencil. So why do you need a case with a pencil slot on it? And really, I think the cases have developed to address the fact that the one I've got, the side of it is open, so you would just get the pencil on there and you would just stick it to it. But the thing is, it doesn't stick, does it? I wouldn't trust it. You'd lose it. So that's why they've built this like monstrosity on it to hold the pencil so you don't lose it. But if you've not got a pencil in the first place, I mean, what are you supposed to do? Hacksaw it off? Ludicrous. Right. Oh, I had no idea the keycaps are coming off. That's not good, Tracy. Oh, Apple have fixed Kim's laptop. Excellent. That's good. And how was the trip to the mall? That would really put me off now, you know. When you said it was the first time you'd been, I'd be like, oh no, I'm not going. I never really have much luck at Team Trafford, do I? It was your laptop that they wouldn't fix. There was my iMac that they had in that many times I was dizzy and they didn't fix. Kept telling me it was fine. It wasn't fine. Right. Oh, Jammy's doing what I'm doing using the Logitech. It does. It just feels great on the iPad. You did rush to be back. Okay. Excellent. We'll let you off then. You probably want an M4 Pro. The problem is, no matter that they are trying... If all goes similar, when you buy this iPad, it's going to have the same operating system as the iPad you've got. So they'll have to try selling it to you on the basis that either there's a new pencil and you need it, and it will only work with the latest iPad, or they'll try and convince you that, you know, they're putting an M17 chip in it and you need that. You can put whatever you like in it, Timothy. If I can't make a selection in Obsidian because it just doesn't work, I'm grumpy. Then it's a toy. So I go into Obsidian. I mean, it's just a text editor for crying out loud. This is not rocket science. But there are things, when I'm trying to make a selection, it just won't do it because it's too near the keyboard or whatever. It makes me just say it's a toy. So do I really want to be paying that kind of money for something that's a toy? And yes, I would be able to use shortcut keys and all the rest of it if I had a keyboard to use it with. And then I'm sure it'd be grand if I had a mouse on it or a trackpad. Then do you know what? It's a... I was nearly rude then. I was going to say a word that began with P, so I'll stick with the P. It's a piddle poor, you know exactly what I was going to say, version of a desktop. You know how there's a phrase, isn't there? Desktop class. Yes. What you're admitting is that the desktop is better. And I can't argue with that. When I have to work in a prone position with my iPad, the air is blue. The stuff that you just can't do. Even with apps that are almost identical. So Ulysses is almost identical. The one that does my head in is Google Calendar. Google Calendar will let you add events. It will not let you duplicate events, and it will not let you move an event from one calendar to the other. On a desktop, it's absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. So until an iPad can do what a desktop can do, don't tell me it's desktop class, because it's not. Do I want to be spending... Should we have a guess at the price? I'm reckoning about between 1,006 and 1,007. At least. Do I want to be spending that? No. No, I don't. Having already spent 7.5 on the one that's on my desk. No, I don't. But we shall see if Timothy can tempt me. Let's find out if Timothy can tempt me. Right. Oh, Renee would want to do the unboxing. Oh, Carol, we're in gluten-free cheese oatcakes. That's exactly what I had. But that was my dinner, not supper. If I was having supper, what would I have now? Well, Tesco's have been, so I can have anything that they've delivered. So, broccoli then. I'm sure they delivered something sexier than that, didn't they?
Cauliflower.
Oh, lovely. Right, I'll know her on that then. Right, let's have a look. SFN, iPad case keeps leaving a trail wherever it goes. Mine it's the kind of, it's not leather, it's some kind of plastic on the front. But you know when it gets loose and it kind of starts coming away, it's leaving like black trails all over the place. Little pieces, maybe like half an inch lengths of little strips of black plastic. So yeah, I really do need a new case. That would make my iPad feel much, much better. That's what I want. Did anybody do the Trustpilot review to get the free 200 AI credits? I don't do that, Jamie. If something's good, I'll say it is. I will not do anything where they're bribing me. But that's just me. Oh, Renee's got plenty of credits. Excellent. Kim doesn't want to go back to the mall. No, I didn't. Well, I decided I didn't fancy going to the mall. Ours is quite close. The Apple store is in the Trafford Centre, which is about 2 miles away. So it's really, really close. But way before lockdown, I would say 2018, 2019, something like that. I'm sure they have to do it. What I'm about to say, I'm sure they have to do it. But you know what? You don't need to film it and put it on the local news, because then it's like, I don't fancy that. They were doing like terrorist responses. Do you remember that? And they got into terrible trouble for shouting the I don't know what the phrase, but whatever the phrase is, God is great, isn't it? In whatever. And they got in terrible trouble for doing it. But they were showing this thing, and I could just, because it was, if it had been another mall, I would probably have been like nowhere near as bothered. But because it was somewhere that I really intimately knew, and it was about 50 yards from the front door of the Apple store, I thought, what if that happened when you were there? We tend not to have shooters, but the way it's going at the minute, knife crime in the UK is probably as bad, or almost, as shootings in the States. So it wouldn't be the first time that somebody had been running around with a knife, or multiple people running around with a knife. Kind of puts you off shopping, as far as I'm concerned. And there was all this business of not leaving bags around, wasn't there? And of course, you go in the Apple store and every other person's got a backpack on. To say I was nervy was an understatement. So we got outside and I said, I don't fancy going back in there again. No, we could have done without the blow-by-blow description of what happened. Definitely. And the way it is at the moment, I don't know if you guys abroad are hearing this, but there's a huge venue opened next door to Manchester City's football stadium. I think they own it, don't they? Or the same people do. Sheikh Mansour. Yeah. It's called Co-op Live, and it's for huge music venues and comedy shows. And they've tried to open it. Where are we up to now? About 20 times? Something happens every time. And it's so funny that the venue that we already had a venue in Manchester. Why we need two, I don't know. But we already had a venue in Manchester called I think it's the AO Arena now. Used to be the MEN Arena. The Manchester Arena, anyway. And I think people, including the stars, were thinking they'd go to this new place because the Manchester Arena was where the bomb was with Ariana Grande. And I thought they would be losing business hand over fist, wouldn't they? The Manchester Arena. Well, not worked out like that, has it? Because all these events have been cancelled at the Co-op Live, and they're now booking the arena. I think it's booked out now. It's crazy over here. And it's all safety stuff as well. And as was pointed out, if they can't install air conditioning without it collapsing, what chance have they got with security? It's safer to just sit at home, watch it on the telly. That's a better idea. Right. Jamie says, only really use my iPad for anything requiring the pencil. And also for consuming content. I don't and never will use it as a laptop replacement. It can't, but I think there's circumstances where it is easier to pick up an iPad and think that you can do stuff with it. And you can up to a point. I mean, if all you're doing is writing and you do have a keyboard, then that's not a problem. But if I am actually like lying down, you couldn't type on a laptop, and my laptop anyway. It hates me. You do tend to think, well, I've got £1,300 within my hand. I should be able to do that, and I can't. And I don't expect it to be quite as good. What I expect is do something to make it as efficient as my desktop. Don't just tell me to buy a keyboard and buy a mouse and buy a trackpad, because then it's just a really poor monitor, isn't it? I don't get that with Apple, but never mind. OSFN's scraps are light blue. I did have one light blue cover, but that one survived. No, these are black. It's a black cover. The back of it is okay. It's the front and where it bends in the middle, but it's shedding. Bless it, it's shedding. Kim doesn't think in front of an iPad as you do well in front of a desktop. Well, obviously my desktop setup is like totally different to an iPad. So I agree with you. I've got 3 monitors for a start, and I have shortcut keys and like Raycast to move things around. So it's just way faster. Hence, making a selection of text on an iPad is difficult. If you tap in slightly the wrong place, like in the iPlayer, you need to swipe down from the top to see the channels. I swear to God, every time I do it, I hit those 3 buttons, those 3 little dot things, which are on about full screen and split screen and what. I don't care. And I'm never using it. Go away. But it's in the way because there's only so much screen real estate. So it's like that. You remember the thing that I thought I wanted for years and years and years that you had on your Surface, where you would swipe up or tap the screen with the pencil and you get a note in OneNote. Oh, I wanted that. Trouble was, I waited that long. When it arrived, I thought, how do you turn this off? I just couldn't be doing with it. It was one of the hot corner things, and I couldn't be doing with it. So sometimes they miss the boat with these things. Liking that's a cake. Do my best thinking when I'm away from the laptop. Can't remember a thing when I get back in front of it. That's the point. That's the kind of thing I want to capture. So I use the apps that work well on iOS. Drafts works well, but it only works well because I'm not going back to edit anything. I'm adding new content, and every time I open it, it gives me a new note, and I just type, and that's it. But it's when you need to do something, like edit something or send something or whatever. I mean, I was sat there, and a mail came in, and this mail had a file attached to it. So I'm in the Gmail app, and this file needed to go to Google Drive. So I thought, well, I'll download it and send it to Google Drive. I did manage to get it to Google Drive in the end. Same thing happened again, and it needed to go to Dropbox. Oh, good grief. It was hideous. It was like that Dropbox isn't an option. I'll go through all of the extra. No, it's not there either. Do I need to enable it? Yep, it's already enabled. It's just not working. Okay, then. So I can download this file, and then it's on my phone. And I'm like, well, then I would need to send it to Dropbox. I'll open the Dropbox app. No, that's not going to work. I thought, crying out loud. The Dropbox app wouldn't talk to the Gmail app. So then I thought, I'll use the Files app. That's what it's for. Gets the Files app open. That wouldn't work either. I did manage to do it, but I'd lost the will to live by that stage. I could have walked up to the Apple Store and back again, and done it there. It took that long. But I did it with File Browser, the Pro version. But then, of course, I needed to log in, and then it's doing the look at the screen thing and log me in, and then I've got to take my glasses off and all the rest of that. It just wasn't easy. It would have been a 1 second job on the desktop. But by the time, and why do places ask you for your username and password separately? If there's anything that pushes my buttons, that's it. You come to log in on a device, and that device is, it's a device that doesn't have a home button. So you can't use the fingerprint thing. So you've got to be looking at the camera or it gets upset. So you're coming to log into somewhere and it says, what's your username? So you tap the button and you tap passwords and you squint at the screen and it blinks at you and it lets you in and it fills in your username and you tap, it let me in. And then it does exactly the same again with the password. For God's sake, just do it once. Just do it once. Why can't you put in? I mean, some sites you can. The majority you can't. It stops and asks you for your username and then stops and asks you for your password when you could ask for both on the same screen. But they don't. And bad words are said. Really bad words are said when that happens, because it's not like the password thing will say, okay, it's you. And if it's within, 10 seconds, guess what? It's me again. No. It has to go through the full rigmarole all the time. Can't be doing with it. Hello, Simon. The pub. Good grief, there's been a lot of socialising going on tonight. The one thing that I can do with drafts, where I don't do it often, I'll admit, because I've usually got a device to hand, but you could use your watch, like Tracy says, you could dictate into it, and it does work brilliantly. Oh, Simon met a dog that drives a tractor and works on the railway. It wouldn't like to be PM, would it? Asking for a friend. Because the elections have gone so well, haven't they? I can't wait to see who wins the mayoral election. I've got a shrewd idea who's won that. Never going to be anywhere else. Right. Would you say that about the football? It's safer to stay home and watch it on the telly. I would. Yes, Simon, absolutely. Trust me, there have been some near misses at Old Trafford. I've been going to Old Trafford on my own, a girl on my own, since I was 12. And my dad was quite happy to let me go. Mum had more sense, but Dad was quite happy to let me go. But aged, what was I? Probably early 40s, late 30s, early 40s. And this was in the days of the intercity firm. They were not interested in attacking kids. These days, even getting into the ground is more effort than I'm prepared to put in, seriously. The last time I went, which was pre-COVID, they'd got sniffer dogs. We're not sure what they're sniffing for. It could either be explosives or it could be drugs. We don't know. But they sniff you. They bring these dogs right up to you, and these dogs are all over you, sniffing you. Then to get in, they had to do like a pat down. I don't like people touching me. Seriously, I do not like people. If you are within 10 yards of me, you are in my space. So the idea of being patted down, I was absolutely horrified. And like I mentioned this the other week, you had to get into a queue. So obviously Mike and I are in the queue together. This was like some weirdness, wasn't it? Where, like synagogue or what's the Muslim one? Temple? Mosque, where the women and men go in separately. That's what you had to do at Old Trafford. And I said at the time, this is ridiculous. What if you're trans? Which queue do you get in? But literally, they had women patting the women down and men patting the men down. But they also had this like magic wand thing that they wafted over you, like a metal detector. And it had to go up and down both sides of your legs, which was grand. Everyone else had jeans on. I had a skirt on. I thought, this isn't going to work. And it didn't. So I'm sure I could have got anything in. That was getting in. And obviously they confiscate anything that you're not allowed. You're not allowed to take a bag in. You are not actually technically allowed to take an iPhone in because it is a fraction of an inch bigger than they allow the screens. So they have a limit on the size of the screen that you can take in. I don't think they've ever actually stopped anybody, but they could. That's getting in. The other problem was the police are a law unto themselves. And apart from the incident where I was told by a club steward to stay where I was, and I was told by a policeman to shift, and I'd be arrested if I wasn't, but if I moved, then I wouldn't get in at all. which was a bit naughty. But worse than that was when we came out and the police had decided to let the opposition fans out at the same time, which wouldn't have been an issue if it was like, who would you say are quite reasonable? Burnley? Yeah. Liverpool. It had scrap written all over it. There was me and Mike. There was a guy with his son who was probably about 8 to 10, and another guy with his father or grandfather. And the bottles started flying. One missed my head by an inch. Another one hit the guy next to me. The guy with the kid and the guy with the granddad had to hide them behind a porta cabin while these bricks were flying. And where were the police? Nowhere to be seen. So, is it better to stay at home and watch it on the telly? Yes. Yes, it is. I can absolutely say yes, it is. It's not the game it was. But I would say, what do you think? People are fraught. People going to that match now are paying, what, 60 quid a match? Or more, right? £60 per match. Parking is a minimum of 20. If you want an uncooked hot dog, I think it was £12.50. If you want a drink, it's about 8 quid. It's ludicrous what you're paying. But the problem is, then you're frisked on the way in. You get in there, they're telling you they want atmosphere, so please sing. The minute you open your mouth, you're told to sit down and shut up. I'm not surprised. Then, of course, they're playing appallingly. People are frustrated. They're frustrated. So they get outside and yeah, of course they want to scrap. So yeah, it's not a great place to be, Simon, honestly. You're better off staying here with the dog. Night, Carol. Catching up. I said that, Tracy. You can dictate into the watch version. It works brilliantly. Really, really good. Right. Catching up. Oh, Stargate. I've never seen Stargate. Is it good? Let me know. Right. I may take that fan. Not really. I can bear them. 50-50. Tracy's having problems seeing an external SD in photos. Oh no. Drone card. Annoying when you want to download the videos. That is actually, touch wood, the only thing that this studio thing will read. Oh, Peter's using File Explorer. Owl Files. Is it Owl Files? Am I talking about the right one? Let me have a look. Let me have a look what it's called. File Browser Pro, the one I've got. It's like an offensive green colour with a folder on it. It says FB. That's the one that I used. The dog would probably do a much better job than the PM. Well, exactly. Yes, exactly, Tracy. I Lola for PM. Lola for PM, I say. Simon says the farmer swears the dog drives in a straight line, he jumps off. Do you know, I wouldn't be surprised. Mayer loved driving, didn't he? He got in the car when he was about 12 weeks old and that was it. Dad keys. Night, Renee. Did you ever get the SSDs working on the studio? No, Jammy, they just don't. So what I did was I sorted out the 2020 iMac and they're on the back of that. They are hanging off a 12 South backpack in my toast rack and they're working fabulously. So I left them alone. Left them alone. I mean, they're fantastic drives. It's Apple that are the problem. There you go. Oh, Stargate's one of Kim's favourites. I might have to put that on my list then. What did I watch? What did I watch this week? There was one called Red Eye with Richard Armitage. That was great. And there was another one, I'm sure. Well, I watched Blue Lights, didn't I? The whole thing. Did you ever find out why they don't work with it? It's to do with Apple. I mean, Apple don't want you to hang stuff off their machines. So it's to do with Apple. There is a kind of, what do we call it? Urban legend, urban myth probably, that you can put these machines, these hard drives, on a Windows machine and reformat them. So obviously you'd have to move all your data and then put them back on the Mac and they work. But, you know, for 5 minutes. for 5 minutes. One of those, well, two of those drives had been hanging off that for over 6 months. They were fine. It was when I swapped them for two bigger ones, and they lasted a day and a half. I thought, fine, I'll put the other ones back, and then they wouldn't work either. But they're working fine on every other machine, including the possessed MacBook Air. So what can you do? Not much, to be honest. Tracy didn't quite understand the blue lights hype. To be honest, I thought Series 1 was better. I loved the guy in it, the older guy. He was a copper in it. He was in, what was that one called? The one with Robert Carlyle. Cobra. Cobra's fabulous. Cobra's had, I think it's 3 series now, and every one has been brilliant. But I thought this series was a slow burn, which was a bit of an issue. But I thought Series 1 was better. But I mean, it wasn't as bad as some rubbish that you see. Oh, I tell you one that this was one of these things. It was sold to me as, did you like Twin Peaks? Well, I love Twin Peaks. And the other thing was Line of Duty. Love Line of Duty. Twin Peaks meets Line of Duty. I thought, okay, I'll have a bit of that. Called Passenger. Do not go anywhere near it. I have no idea what was going on. I think I watched 20 minutes. And at the end of it, I'm like, I have no idea what's going on here. It was appalling. It's on ITVX. Don't bother. If they offer it to you, just do not go anywhere near it. And I thought, well, it's clearly me. Because, you know, it's probably altogether now dope and sick. And I just don't get it. And then I've got Kindle Unlimited, which gives me magazines, free magazines. So I download the TV guide for the week. And on the letters page at the back, somebody had written in and said they'd been recommended this Passengers thing. What the hell was going on there? I thought it wasn't just me. This poor person had watched the whole thing and said not only was it like completely off the wall, it was nonsensical, but it finished with a load of cliffhangers. Do you remember when, what was that series finished with cliffhangers? Was it The Royal? Mum went ballistic. It finished and there was like cliffhangers. And the idea was they'd get another series, but they weren't. They were binned. So none of these cliffhangers ever got sorted out. She said she'd never watch anything again. TV's overrated, I tell you. It's totally overrated. Oh, Life on Mars, that was a good one. I did not know Robert Carlyle was in Stargate. I think he's a great actor. Absolutely great. The other thing that we watched was Murder in Mind, wasn't it? Which was a BBC series from about 20 years ago. I don't think I saw all of them at the time because Maya was a baby. Well, a puppy. And he wanted to play constantly. So we watched the first one. I couldn't remember the first one at all, but it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. That's a good one. I did see Life on Mars, but I didn't see it. Life on Mars should be on the iPlayer. If not, it could be on that UK one. Did you ever find the Marlowe murders? You were having trouble with the VPN at the time. It could be on that channel because they kind of swap as well. I would love Disney Plus because I want to watch Grey's Anatomy and Station 19, but I can't justify another channel because I don't watch anything. You know, literally apart from 2 or 3 series, that's it. Didn't see Orphan Black. Currently watching Slow Horse. No, not seeing it. No idea. I did see, I'm weird me, instead of seeing Life on Mars first, I saw the other one. Ashes to Ashes. And then I went back and watched Life on Mars, but there was one episode of Life on Mars and I loved it. It was set, I think, in the early 70s, and there was a derby match between United and City, and there was 2 kids who lived next door to each other. One was a blue, one was a red, and they went to the match together. I thought those were the days. Not like now where you're frisked when you're 300 yards from the place. Oh, Kim's bored with Greys. I haven't been able to see a series for 3 years, Kim. It used to be on Sky, and then Disney Plus got it. But I wouldn't watch stuff on Disney. So I really don't watch enough. And now my iTV doesn't work. So there was a grand upgrade, wasn't it? So I upgraded to the latest and greatest, the best machine Apple sell. But because it's Apple Silicon, my iTV USB stick doesn't work anymore. I was grumpy about that as well, wasn't I? Because I couldn't time shift anything. I couldn't record anything. So now I'm relying on the on-demand player things, which I wanted to watch one the other week, didn't I? Do you remember that? Oh, and they are infuriating. They are infuriating. It was the ITVX player, and the programme I wanted to watch wasn't great, but I've watched it for donkey's years, so I might as well watch the latest episode. So I knew it started at 8 o'clock, but I was watching something else or doing something else, and I thought, well, I can watch it on demand and then tap and say watch from the beginning. So I get to the programme keyed up. You've got to watch 3 adverts. Well, I don't watch them, obviously, but you've got to sit through 3 adverts before it will show you the programme. So these adverts are on, and I'm thinking, I've got no sound. I thought, oh, that's a blessing in disguise, because I don't want to listen to these adverts anyway. So the programme started, and I thought, damn it, I've got no sound. So I'm playing with the remote, the volume control. It wasn't making a jot of difference. So I opened the iPlayer, I had sound on that. So I thought, well, it must be something in the app. I have the app upside down. Can't do anything. So I start again. Close the app down completely, open it up again, go through the same 3 adverts. Program starts, watch from beginning. And whether I watch it from the beginning or I let it run from where it was, because by this stage it was about past. We were 25% of the way into the program. I had no sound. I had to wait until the program had finished and then watch it on demand. So yeah, these apps that they have, there's the iPlayer, there's the ITVX one, there's the UK Gold one, there's Channel 4, Channel 5. They're all fractionally different enough to be damned annoying. Damnably annoying is what they are. UK TV Play won't play ball with a VPN. If it comes somewhere else, I'll let you know, Tracy. Because they had, what was that other series? Magpie Murders. It was an Anthony Horowitz book, and I was thinking there's no way it would work as a TV show, and actually it did. They cast that brilliantly. But it was on, is it BritBox? Oh, it was a subscription channel, and I thought, oh, don't have access to that. And it was in conjunction with the BBC, and a few months later the BBC put it on, so I was able to watch it. So it could well be that this Marlowe Murders will come on the BBC, or at least the iPlayer. If I find it, I will let you know. I can't believe that they would do that with a VPN. A VPN's supposed to be transparent, isn't it? That they wouldn't know. Jamie likes Disney Plus. Most used of them. So much content on it. Well, the last thing I need is more dragging away from my tech. So I'll leave that alone. I need to find this Slow Horses now. Under the Bridge. Nope, no idea. Not even heard of that one. The only bridge thing I'd seen was The Bridge and the Arthur Miller play, which I absolutely love. That had Russell in it, didn't it? That had a cast of thousands. View from the bridge. Love that. Anyway, we will head off now. I'm thinking now what we can have as a treat. We haven't got any cake, have we? No, it's no birthdays or anything. But it's mine soon, isn't it? I shall pick some cake for my birthday. That's what I shall do. But at the moment, I am going to say a good night from me.
And good night from me.
And we will both see you next time. Stay safe, guys.